Qiagen RNeasy mini columns for extraction of RNA from clinical specimens to be tested by real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, RRT-PCR. This RNA extraction procedure uses guanidinium thiocyanate, a chemical used to lyse cells and inactivate viruses such as influenza virus. The initial step must be performed in a BSC. Following the addition of the lysis buffer, the specimens are no longer infectious and can be safely removed from the BSC. RNA extraction separates and removes nucleic acid from other cellular components, such as proteins and lipids, that are inhibitory to PCR. Start by preparing the Qiagen RNeasy extraction components according to the manufacturer's instructions. Use a filtered pipette tip to pipette 500 microliters of your sample into a sterile microcentrifuge tube. Next, add 500 microliters of RLT lysis buffer to the specimen tube. Do not touch the side of the specimen tube with the pipette tip or insert the tip into the specimen tube. If you do, you will need to change to a new sterile tip. Thoroughly vortex each sample. Pulse centrifuge the specimen tubes to remove any sample that may be on the lid of the tube after vortexing. Add 500 microliters of 70% ethanol and vortex each tube. Centrifuge the lysed sample for 5 minutes at 5,000 times G to clarify the sample. Next, place the appropriate number of RNeasy extraction columns into the column ports on the vacuum manifold and label each column to correspond to the specimen identification. Loosen the lid of each column before turning on the vacuum pump so air can flow through the column when the vacuum is turned on. Turn on the vacuum and push down on the manifold lid so it will form a tight seal with its base. Using an aerosol-resistant pipette tip, individually transfer the liquid in each specimen tube to the corresponding extraction column. Note, care should be taken not to remove or dislodge the pellet from the bottom of the specimen tube. After the specimen has been vacuumed from the extraction column, wash the specimen with 700 microliters of previously prepared RW1 buffer. After the RW1 buffer has been vacuumed from the column, perform 2 500 microliter washes with RPE wash solution, making sure that all of the wash solution has been completely vacuumed from the column between each wash step. Note, any nucleic acid present in the specimen should now be adhering to the white silicone membrane at the bottom of the column. Place the extraction column into the centrifugation tubes supplied with the columns. Dry the column and remove residual ethanol by centrifugation in a microfuge at full speed for 2 minutes. Note, residual ethanol is inhibitory to PCR amplification and other downstream applications. Move the extraction columns to the elution tubes. Using sterile pipette tips for each tube, add 50 microliters of RNase-free water to each column. Be certain not to touch the silica gel membrane of the column with the pipette tip. Incubate the tubes at room temperature for 1 to 3 minutes. Centrifuge the tubes for 1 minute at 10,000 RPM to elute the RNA. Store the sample at 4 degrees Celsius until the sample is tested. RNA that cannot be tested within 24 hours should be stored at -70 degrees Celsius. Multiple freeze and thaw cycles should be avoided.